Hey there people, and welcome to another episode of me without glasses because I have now contact lenses. Glad that you care. So today we're going to talk about the worst cards from each set. And to say the obvious at the very beginning, those are just my opinions, meaning they are right. If you don't agree with my opinions, you're wrong. That's how this works. In the beginning, it's really easy to find bad cards. I mean, look at this. What is that? The card is just bad. Here's the thing, I want to include cards that have at least a single word in their text. So if the card has taunt, that's an effect, I would count that. If the card is just Magma Rager, I mean yeah, obviously the card is bad. If it has no effect, what do you expect? So while it is really easy to find a really bad card in the beginning, nowadays most cards have an alright power level. And after looking at all the cards in the game, looking at so many forgotten cards, so many terrible things, let's start with the very first set, the Hall of Fame. And the very first card in there is Glitter Moth. Here's why. You can only play this card on Odd Priest, which is a terrible class identity. Like, why would you play Odd and Priest? No. And on top of that, it just doubles the health of all the minions that you control. So if you have no minions, you play a 5-mana 4/4. You can't tell me that this card is useful anywhere, ever. Maybe in Beast Priest, but no, this card is terrible. Then in next Rammus we get Stone Skin Gargoyle. And boy, that card technically makes sense. It is a good minion if you buff that. If it stays on the board, there's no silence, no freeze, nothing, and then you get values. So maybe against an NPC battle, this card makes sense, but in a real scenario, against another human being, even against a bot on ladder, this card doesn't do anything. Talking about bad, let's talk about the worst removal spell ever. Not sure about ever, but this is so bad. It's called Recycle. In GVG for Druid, there was this 5-mana spell, 6-mana spell, as you can see. It shuffles a minion into the enemy's deck. So it's like Entomb, but worse, you don't even get their minion, you just shuffle it back. Why would you spend 6 mana on that in Druid? I'm not an expert here, but even at like 4 mana, this card is bad. You can't even use the card in Funny OTKs, but you can use Major Domo in Funny OTKs. He might be the worst card in the Blackrock Mountain, but you can use him in really funny OTKs. Do you want to give your opponent a copy of this card, destroy that, destroy your own, and hero power the enemy's Major Domo? Well, that sounds really complicated and is really bad, but maybe in 1 out of 20 games, it might work. Next we get what is considered to be the worst expansion ever made, next to Rastakan's Rumble, and that is TGT. We have Ice Howl in here. It's like a 50-50. It has a charge effect, but it can't charge. So why is the keyword on there? I don't know. It has Rush. You know what else is a 50-50? 50% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. If you want to subscribe, it's only 1 click away. And the 1 click it's away could also hit the disenchant button when it comes to summoning stone. Technically, if you play a meme random mage deck with York and all that, this makes sense, but it's a 5-mana 0/6. It doesn't even destroy a minion. It has no effect. The moment you play it, you have to play a spell to it, and then you just summon something random. It's like, why not just play anything else? And when I say it doesn't do anything, it does as much as Shatter. Shatter was considered to be the worst spell that you can get when it comes to random spells, because you can only destroy a frozen minion. We even got a better version of this card later on, which can freeze a minion or destroy the minion if it's frozen already. But Shatter itself only destroys a frozen minion and does nothing else. So I'm sitting here wondering and asking, why does this card exist? It's like the card is supposed to have another effect, but they forgot to type in the words and to code that. But what they didn't forget to code is summoning a 1/1 at the end of your turn when you play Morose. He is one of those legendary minions that I did craft in Golden just because he's that bad and I would like to have him. And I can tell you, he has a nice voice line. He's like, let's show our guests something. But boy, he gets removed in every single scenario. No matter when you play him, he is a 3-mana 2/2. He always dies immediately against everything. And if he magically survives for a turn or two, you summon 1/1s. And then I came to Gadget Zen, and I realized there are so many bad cards in here, I have to mention at least 3. My number 1 pick was Blubber Baron, and that is because you not just have to draw the card and have it in your hand, but then also play Battlecry minions just to buff it. So it's like Bolvar 4 Dragon in GVG, just worse. But then I also realized there's a card called Wind Up Burglebot, which is a 6-mana 5/5 that doesn't do anything. Like you have to attack, and the minion has to survive, and you draw a card. So it's not even guaranteed. It doesn't even have Battlecry draw a card. But then there's also Grok Fu Master. Who would spend 5 mana on a card that has Wind Fury? And that's the effect. It's a 3/5. Even recently, this card got power creeped. We now have this one. That's the same thing, -1 mana. I guess the upside is you can play Grok Fu Master in your Odd Priest when you also play Glitter Moth, which I think never happened once in the entirety of the game. 2017 rolls around after. It's April, and Angoro gets released, and we have one specific card for Hunter, called Dynamancy. This card is so terrible, you gotta play at least 2 of them, I mean, you can only play 2, but you know what I mean. So you draw one of them, if you were to play Beast Hunter or whatever. Your hero power costs 2 mana to buff something by +2/+2. And on top of that, if you play the second Dinomancy, when the first one is active, nothing happens. When you play something like activate your hero's emo phase, you deal 2 damage, and if you play the second version, you deal 3 damage with the hero power. But with Dinomancy, you just... nothing. There's just nothing if you play the second one. It's so terribly bad. Like Morabi. Why is that a legendary? Why is this 6 mana? Why is it in Shaman? So many questions. Make this card 4 mana, make it for Mage, maybe somebody plays that. Even then it's not good. And this is not the only legendary. Next we have Temporis. Why would I give my opponent 2 turns? If I could get my opponent to play that card, great. If I can't, terrible. Same with Duskfallen Aviana. Why does this card only work on my enemy's turn? With that I mean, if you play it on your own turn, it works for the enemy first, and then it works for you. And whatever your opponent plays, they probably destroy your minion. If it would be the next card you play costs 0 mana, card would be broken. You could play the card and then anything else for free on your own turn. But helping your opponent out first, this doesn't do anything. Time to change the background color. And then there's Unpowered Mauler. You play the minion, and it doesn't do anything. You have to cast a spell for the minion to be active. And it's only a 2 mana 2/4 in stats. It doesn't do anything specific. So yeah, a Boomstay wasn't good. I mean, some of the max and the magnetic stuff was good. Rastakan's Rumble though, oh, that was bad. All the shrines, terrible. This card, Gurubashi Offering, terrible. This card either dies immediately, or you heal for 8. And those will be all the cards that are wild, or at least in the wild list when you go into your collection manager. Next you have the basic set and then go up until Darkmoon Faire. And for the worst card in the basic set that has an effect, yeah, Silverback Page, who would have guessed? It's so bad. This should be 2 mana, or less, probably less. For the classic set, we take another look at Wind Fury cards. Thralma something. This card is green, it's like an ogre, but it's not as strong as ogre. If you had Wind Fury like in Battlegrounds, so your minion can actually attack with that, Wind Fury is great. It doesn't have that. It just has play the card, then it dies. You spend 3 mana on a 2-drop. Makes no sense. Same as Dr. Boom's Scheme. When this card came out, people thought that maybe there was a different effect planned because of the artwork, as it doesn't make any sense that it gives you armor with that artwork. And Dr. Boom is like explosive stuff and boom bots, and this is not anything explosive, it's more like armor. So yeah, this card is still terrible. After that, we got Chromatic Arc, and that is because you discover a dragon, which is bad, and your opponent can just ignore this minion. So here's the thing. Just play the minion that you would like to have instead of that. In Service of Doom, we have this stone. It doesn't do anything unless you have at least 3, which is pretty complicated to do. For that, you would need to set up an OTK or something like that. And then there are so many better OTKs. This is one of the worst things I think I ever tried to make work. And the card down itself doesn't do anything. In Galakrond's Awakening, we have this one legendary called Grand Guy Urk, Lackey Man. And if you play a Lackey, you get a Lackey. Yeah, no, it's a 4 mana 2/3 do nothing. That's not good. For the Demon Hunter Initiate set, I put in Blur because most of the cards can see play, but Blur doesn't do anything. Unless you want to go for Yogg-Saron into Rod of Roasting and Blur, then this card doesn't do anything. You wouldn't play it, I think, in any deck, ever. A Fiery Bird named Allah is next. I also crafted this one in Golden. I crafted a lot of bad Golden Legendaries, just because, I don't know, they're pretty. And the animation is great, but yeah, it's a 7/3. For the second last card from Scolomancy, we got Blood Herald, and that is like Blubber Baron earlier. The effect is against stats, but it takes time, so you can't even play the card immediately. And if you were to play the card immediately, you really just summon stats, so it's like playing a Mountain Giant, but it's worse. Far worse. And for the worst card in Darkmoon Faire, we got Rock Rager. Fun fact, I crafted this card as well as all the other Ragers in Golden, like the Legendaries, because they're terrible. And what I really hope happens in the future is we can summon the avatar for Ragers. So we can have like the Vine Rager, Rock Rager, Magma, Amgam, Frost Rager, all of those. Combine them, cast like Polymerization, and summon like the ultimate Rager, which is like the ancient one, but has charge and ignores taunt. That is the vision I have. That's the one OTK I want to play. I want to combine all Golden Ragers, like Voltron in the animation, and summon like a giant Rager. That's when I will stop playing Hearthstone. I will do that once and then delete my account. Mark my words. And in case that actually happens, I will not delete my account, I lied. And with all of that being said, those were the cards I personally consider to be the worst from each and every single expansion we have. If there are cards you think are worse, let me know down below. I might even read the comments, but I will probably not. And if you think I'm wrong with any of those choices, no, you're wrong. I hope you understand that this is just sarcasm and it's really just a card game, so this doesn't matter. But I thought it would be fun to make a list. Take care.